Okay, hello everyone. And before we get started, I do want to recommend these two groups on Facebook for building your own enclosures. They helped me get started. Here's a super speed run of me deep cleaning the enclosures. Each one is 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, 4 feet tall, and each one takes me about 20 minutes to deep clean. This video is just an introduction, and it also gives you an idea of how large it is in comparison to me, and I am not a small person. So I used 1/2-inch plywood sheets with 2x2 support beams, and then as you can see at the bottom, it is on wheels, casters, whatever you would like to call them. For waterproofing, I used Drylock Original. There are other forms of Drylock out there, but this is the only kind that doesn't have mold inhibitors, which means it is safe for animals. As you can see, I put shelves in. There's 4 in total. Covered everything in about 4 layers of Drylock before I started the background. Drylock has a sandy texture, so this made the spray foam stick to it even better, plus it's just extra waterproofing. Drylock comes in white or gray, but it is tintable. You can see here I tinted it a darker gray. This is so if substrate gets, rubbed off over time, it won't be white underneath. It'll be still pretty camouflaged in. Here is showing the back wall almost complete. And here is a closer photo showing the background. This came out very well. I did put the cork too close together. It made it harder to carve, so I recommend spacing it out a bit more. But what I did is I took cork tubes and I cut them in half, broke them in half, and this made it to where it was kind of like a rock wall with all these 2 to 4 inch grooves that the snake could wedge its body through and literally climb up the wall. I did collect branches from outside. What I did is a scrub brush, dish soap, scrub it real good, rinse it real good. Once that dries completely, sanitize it using chlorhexidine or F10 veterinary disinfectant. I drilled them into the walls using 4-inch carpentry screws. And you can see here where I am turning the enclosure on its different sides to work with gravity. Drylock, when you're using it as an adhesive, it's a heavier material than silicone, so you really want to make sure you're working with gravity, otherwise it could just slide off. Especially when you're using substrate, you really want to apply the Drylock thickly. So final product, we have 4 shelves. Each shelf has a lip on it to hold substrate, and I know I've been asked this all the time, why didn't you go bioactive? Bioactive would have been so good, blah blah blah. My boa is albino, so I tried to limit the amount of excessive light. She does cryptic bask under UVB, and I have some pictures here showing that. But the amount of lighting that would have been needed to support live plants just would have been too much, and I think it would have affected how out she is, because she's out pretty often. That's how I even get these photos, so that is why I didn't go bioactive. And she's about 4 feet long currently, still growing. She'll get something bigger as an adult. Here's where I started my carpet python enclosure. I didn't know I was going to make YouTube videos when I was building these, so I did not get actual video footage, but here's just some pictures. Same process, cork, Drylock, spray foam. Here you can see me standing next to it. At first it started white, but I did go back and hand paint another Drylock background using cement dyes, and I actually made a video on it, so if you'd like to watch it, you can go. And here's some more pictures. I think painting the background definitely made a huge difference as far as like the whole aesthetic. Here's my carpet python. She was in shed in that photo. Here she is climbing. I've noticed since giving UVB, her scales have just started glowing, always so much iridescence. Really amazing photos. She just always looks beautiful. Here was a little darker lighting, so not as much iridescence. But here we've got some more iridescence again, right under her halogen bulb, peeking out. Here's some pictures of my husband holding her. And she does have a hammock there. And I did recently add fans to my enclosure, and I did have a video on that, so If you're interested in that, go check that one out. Otherwise, you might be thinking UVB, overhead heating, DP projectors, RHPs, what is all this? I recommend checking out Reptile Lighting. It's a group that specializes in creating natural heat and lighting, UVB, LED, for ambient temperature, RHPs, all that stuff. So I definitely recommend checking them out. And then also, I'm a big fan of advancing herpetological husbandry. I just really like the naturalistic side of keeping, clearly because this is how I did my enclosures. If that side of herpetoculture, the hobby, interests you, please check out those groups. You won't regret it. Really amazing stuff. All kinds of studies in the files in those groups. Just really fantastic. Okay, I realized I did not include how I'm heating. And I also, out of everything I did for this enclosure, the only thing I dislike is the plexi. As you can see, it scratches. It also warps, so I have some of these cabinet clips to prevent the glass from bowing into the cage. And every now and then I take all the glass out, lay it flat on the floor to try to get it to lay back flat, if that makes sense. So for heating, up here I have the halogen, the T5 7% forest UVB, and I'm gonna get my heat gun. So we got a range of like 73 to up there, it's about 90. Okay, and then over here, more temp gradient, 74. And then in there, I'm trying to get it. I'm gonna have to include another video because I don't know if you can see. She's in shed and she's in there right now, so I'm gonna insert another clip I took during cleaning to show that there's actually a hot spot underneath this hide due to the lamps down here. So for my boas, I've got no heat on this side, but up there is the sky hide, so it's about 75 down here, and then hot air rises. So on this side shelf, we've got about 77, 76 there, and then up here, since heat rises, it's usually upper 70s, possibly 80. Here is a sky hide. It also acts as another belly heat source since it is up high. Heat rises, so it usually stays upper 80s in here. Then it also acts as a humid hide because I have some moss in there. Humidity tends to stay lower down where the substrate is, so this gives her an elevated place at an elevated temperature where she can still stay humid. Here I've got two hides. I've got a cork tube there for cryptic basking, which is where, they just stick out a single coil or a small section of their body to bask instead of fully laying out in the open. And then there I've got a thick pile of coconut husk and sphagnum moss. She does like to burrow in cryptic basks, so she can burrow in there and choose how much she wants to expose herself to the deep heat projector and the UVB. As I said before, she's albino, light sensitive, so I went with a deep heat projector rather than a halogen just to limit that light because she is out pretty frequently, and I believe that is because of the fact that I don't have a bunch of lights in here. Okay, down here, I've got another humid hide box on top of a very deep pile of of coconut husk and sphagnum moss. You'll notice in the pictures that the setup was a little different than it is now. This is like my winter setup. So I've got inanimate items, got a tube, some plants, another hide just in case, a rock. She can go under that as a tunnel or use it as a hide. She's got this thinner twig here that goes all the way up and then these bigger branches. But over here, keeping it very humid because the RHP there is an 80 watt and it keeps this whole area about 80 degrees. So she can burrow under this mulch, stay humid while also staying decently warm. And then up here, obviously, is the basking zone where it's gonna be like this whole platform is about 90
because of the RHP underneath, it naturally heat goes through the wood. So even this area here that's not under the lamp is about 90 degrees. So she can lay directly on this shelf and get belly heat from the RHP below in this hide. She's actually in this one. Can you see her there? Or she can go through the mulch over there and cryptic bask under the UVB and the DP projector, and I included pictures of that previously. So that's how I heat. So this side, 75, 74 on a low day. Everywhere else got ranges, so about upper 70s, 80s on this shelf. You got this sky hide that's all the way up high, hot air rises, so it's about upper 80s with moist sphagnum moss inside, so it acts as a humid hide. Here, the whole shelf, 90 degrees, either under the lamp or the belly heat from the RHP down below, which keeps this area right at 80. And then got a larger water dish because it's winter. It's already getting low 40s here, which means that humidity is going to be harder to hold up, because without warmer air temperatures outside, that means it's going to be a natural lower humidity indoors as well, which affects the humidity in the enclosures. So we got that humid hide there, and then also, since that is a plastic humid hide, that means the substrate underneath it is also staying more moist. So all kinds of areas you can find microclimates inside or underneath. I use Govee digital Bluetooth thermometer hygrometers. They also have a Wi-Fi version, which means you can check it anywhere on your phone, but I just got the Bluetooth because they were cheaper and I'm usually home, so it's not a big deal for me to just come home, turn on Bluetooth and check it every now and then. And then, as I showed here, got the overhead heating sources there, a temp gradient of about 73, 74 to 90, 95 sometimes. And then she also has this belly heat area over here if she doesn't want to be under the lamps. So that is how I heat these enclosures. And I think that's going to be it for this whole video. Again, I wish I had used real glass, because plexi sucks. It's ugly, it scratches. So if there was one thing I could change and go back and do again, it would be to use real glass. And again, because winter is coming and humidity is affected, even though carpet pythons don't need a high constant humidity the way boas do, I do include a humid hide because it does get very dry in the winter. So she can go inside this humid hide, rehydrate herself, get some humidity if she wants it. And then I also have a larger water bowl. My boa is at a size where she can easily fit inside that. My carpet python is getting close to 7 foot. So she could squeeze in here if she really wanted to, but obviously ideally you would want something bigger. These enclosures are not forever. These were made because I knew I was going to be in an apartment for a little while, but once in the future we get a permanent place, a house, all those things, these will be replaced with larger walk-in enclosures. And I hope you found this video useful, and thanks for watching.